All right, so Comic-Con has gotten to me. They have a very serious issue we have to discuss before we start. Apparently, there's been a strict violation of Comic-Con policy by most of you in here. No vampire baseball is allowed to be played in the hall. If this rule continues to be broken, the Voltari will give you a lifetime ban membership to Team Edward and even Team Jacob. Stop. No more vampire baseball. All right. Hi, I'm Matt Ryan, host of Moderated by Matt. I'm so glad to be here at Comic-Con with our special guest, who began her directing career with the film 13, which anybody with a teenager knows is the scariest movie ever made. She went on to direct Lords of Dogtown, Nativity, and in 2008 she took on the impossible task of turning Stephenie Meyer's book Twilight into a movie. The film became the highest grossing film by a woman director, and it $408 million. It launched a multi-billion-dollar franchise. So please welcome Catherine Hardwicke back home. All right, Catherine, so let's go back to the beginning. What was it about your experience reading the Twilight book that made you want to tell Bella and Edward's story?
Well, what happened is I was, can you guys hear me? Yeah. First of all, hello everybody. Thank you guys so much for coming. I'm so excited to see everybody here. Hey, how many people saw it in theaters when it first came out? Oh my God, okay, awesome. How many weren't born at that time? But, so, you know, I was at Sundance, and this new company, or this company that was Summit, they decided to start making original films. They said, we have 5, scripts that we might want you to direct one of them. Go home and read these scripts and see if you like any of them. So I read all of them. I threw them all in the trash. I didn't like any of them. And then the next day I thought, wait, what was that vampire one? I got the script out and I said, maybe it must be based on a book. And so I went and bought the book, and I read. The script was terrible, but I read the book, and I'm like, oh my God, they totally missed the point of this whole script, because in that script Bella was like a track star, and she was like she was like a superstar, and by the end we were going on jet skis. She was chasing the FBI on jet skis, and I'm like, did they even read the book, man? And so I called up Summit and I said, I want to come meet on this project. But when I walked in there, I literally just took the script and threw it in the trash. And I said, we've got to make it closer to the book, because the reason I love the book, and I think other people love the book, it's about this crazy ecstatic feeling about first love, and like you don't think of ration or reason or anything. You're just madly in love with this person, and it's intoxicating, and he's dangerous. And I thought, I wonder if I can create that same feeling on the screen that Stephenie created in the book, So that I thought was a really good challenge. Like, how can I do that, And that's what made me want to try it. Plus, I love the Pacific Northwest. How many people are from Oregon or Washington? How many have visited Forks? Who's been to Forks? Yay, okay. And I love trees, and I love moss. Who else likes moss out there? Yay, okay. So I thought, I want to see these beautiful creatures like out in nature. I'd seen vampires only in Paris and the dark alleys and back alleys of London, but I never saw them in nature. I'm like, this could be cool, it's something different, and I got excited about it, and also I think that'll help save the planet by getting people to love trees, So. Also, what else do you think I snuck in there to help save the planet? Anybody know? Vitamin R. I like that, but Bella's a vegetarian. Yes. And what about the field trip they take? Oh
yeah, compost.
The compost, the worms. No. Yeah, compost tea. So anyway, yeah, that's why I loved it, for all those reasons.
All right, let's go back to some casting. What did you see in Kristen Stewart that you knew she could capture the essence of Bella's character from the book?
Who saw Into the Wild? Yes. Okay. Remember when Kristen is sitting there in the little trailer, the mobile home, looking at Emil like she wanted to devour him or whatever? I'm like, okay. I see that she's got that desire, and she's not overplaying it, and she's being natural, but you see she wants so bad to be with this guy. And there was kind of a cool story for that, because I directed that movie. Anybody see Lords of Dogtown? Skateboard movie? Yay! So Lords of Dogtown, and Emil Hirsch is starring in it. And then Sean Penn saw the movie. He told me, I like this guy, Emil Hirsch. And he said, let's call him up right now. So we called up Emil Hirsch, and Sean said, I want you to be in my movie, because Sean Penn directed Into the Wild. Then they invited me to an early screening of Into the Wild. I went there, and I saw Kristen there in that scene. I'm like, I want her. You took my actor, now I want your actor. Trade off. So I really wanted Kristen to be in the movie, because I thought she was so compelling. And then I asked the studio, and I said, she's in Pittsburgh shooting, what's the name of the movie? Adventureland, I believe.
Adventureland, yeah.
And so I said, can I go meet her and see if we can get along? And she's playful and fun, and we can improv scenes and all. And I wanted to go with somebody else. So Jackson Rathbone went with me, and he carried my suitcase and everything. I'm like, okay, very nice gentleman. And then he improvised all the scenes with Kristen. We went out in the park, we chased pigeons, we sang songs, we did everything. And I thought, yeah, she's got some magic that's gonna really be Bella,
And you had Kristen read with other actors. For Edward, what was Robert Pattinson's performance? I mean, you say, you know what, he's the only one that could play opposite Bella. Okay,
so, worldwide search. How can you find Edward? He's perfect. He's, almost 100 years old. He's got that magical quality. He's special. So every actor that I saw looked like the cute guy in your high school, like next door. Not that they're cool, but they weren't special. And so I'm just searching, who's it going to be? And we're looking at photos and, finally I got my top 4. And then I said, okay, Kristen, you need to come to my house, and we're going to do a very kind of personal audition. Instead of being in a casting director's office, it's very sterile and formal and all. We'll be playful with it. And so we had all the 4 different guys come. Each of them were there. It was like, The Bachelor, whatever, each was there for an hour or something, and we tried scenes and improvised. And when it got to Rob, I started feeling electricity, crackling, this is getting serious, And so, in fact, so serious that I was like, oh my God, I mean, it looks like they're about to grab each other right now. And we did the audition for the kissing scene on my bed, that's still my bed. And then Rob got so kind of overheated that he fell off the bed onto the floor. I'm like, dude, okay, calm down. And I said, by the way, I tried to be casual about it, but I remember I was sitting at my kitchen table, and I said, by the way, I don't know, Rob, if you know this, but Kristen is 17, and that's illegal to have sex in the U.S. And they were like, rude, That wasn't probably the nicest thing, the most tactful thing to say, but I was getting nervous, yeah.
Okay, so Edward is brooding, dark, mysterious, silent, and has a habit of watching women sleep without their consent. What were your and Robert's concerns about how he'd be portrayed on the screen? How'd you be able to pull that off?
I mean, I think Rob was at first he loved the idea because he really admired Kristen's work. She's a great serious act. He liked 13 and all that stuff. But then he realized, wow, now I got a lot to live up to, And he's a very shy person, And so for him, he would sometimes almost be, paralyzed in some way, how can I live up to this book that so many people out there have this vision of Edward, you know. And so sometimes he would be pretty nervous. I'd be like, you know, he would play part of the scene, then he'd stop, I can't do it. I'm like, yes, you can. Let's go to the end, you know. Keep doing the scene, let's finish the scene. Then he'd stop, you know, 4 more lines. No, it's not working, you know. And I'm like, okay, breathe, you know. It's like deep breaths. Let's just get to the end of the scene, and then I'm kind of like the outsider, the director. I can judge and help you and tell you if you're doing a good job or not. I was just like, please do the scene, you know. So finally he started feeling better and, you know, more confident. But I think it was a lot to live up to, because you guys had a lot of expectations about Edward, right? And then immediately, yay, okay, awesome. And then when the announcement came, do you guys remember back then when it was announced that Rob Pattinson was going to play it? There was a lot of negative feedback, because there were a lot of photos of him in London, like stumbling out of a pub or whatever, and people were like, this guy is not Edward. But when I met him at my house, I'm like, we're doing a makeover on you, because he came with dyed black, kind of greasy bangs. And I'm like, no. And he kind of, his main exercise was kind of like at the bar, like this. So he kind of had a little tummy situation going on. And so I'm like, dude, you know, you got to be lean, mean, badass, powerful looking. You're going to work out. And he was like, what? You know, what do you mean by that? I mean, he was a bit nervous, you know. And I remember the first day that he went to work out with the trainer, he goes, you know, I tried it and it kind of felt good. You know? I was like, yeah, like our bodies are kind of made to move, you know, and all that. And so he really got into it, you know, and he came up there to Oregon early, he dove into it. And what you said earlier, he and Dr. Cullen they wrote letters to each other, lots of letters, like about their whole history, you know, like everything that all in the last like 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, they really built a relationship through handwritten letters, which was pretty cool, creating those kind of details.
Let's talk a little bit of the opening. You have Bella's great voiceover coming straight from the book. I've never given much thought how I would die. And it's juxtaposed with Edward hunting a deer. What was the choice to open that way?
Well, I think that was a good idea from our screenwriter, Melissa. She came up with that kind of cool, you know, opening. And we don't see that it's Edward, but yeah, okay, exactly. And yeah, it was a beautiful opening.
Now, directors I know don't like to rate actors' performances against each other, but who delivered their performance in less takes, the deer or Robert Pattinson?
Oh dear, okay. Well, deer are not that cooperative. They do not care about movies. Isn't that weird? They don't like movies. They don't watch movies. They don't want to be actors.
Oh, yeah, I can see
they don't
that.
give a shit. So you basically got to scare the deer. You got to scare it to run. You got to trick it, feed it. You know, they don't even like to be trained or anything. Yeah.
I actually love a very casting critical role, Billy Burke as the dad. You really believe he's a police chief in the Pacific Northwest. He just carries it. What did you see in him that you know he could play that awkward dad-daughter scenes, especially the first one, the car ride when they're going back home?
Yeah, well, Billy's very rock and roll, you know, so he came in like super cool rock and roll rocker dude. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of an interesting twist. He's not gonna be like a boring dad, you know, he's got his own kind of swagger and very, you know, laid back in his own way and everything. So I just loved what he did when he auditioned for it. I just thought it was such a different take. And Gil also, you know, he's so awesome. Oh my God, loved him. He's just like too cool for school, crazy and great. So, and he had to be in a wheelchair, but he still made it cool to be in a wheelchair, you know. So, yeah.
I love this, just a shot of him cleaning a shotgun when he's about to intimidate Edward is my favorite, one of my favorite shots in the movie, because he does it so well. One of the things I really loved about the book is usually when they do an outsider character, especially a teenager, they make them, antisocial, they don't like anybody. She actually had a good relationship with her human friends. She was an outsider, but she did.
Yeah.
So how did you create that then with Anna Kendrick and the other high schools to make them feel like, they were accepting, but obviously Bella's a little different?
Right. Well, that's fun. Like when I audition people, I like to audition a few people at the same time. Like, so I would have, like I said, whoa, okay. Like, sorry. Like I would like to have, Jackson reading with Kristen, or, I didn't like to be myself reading or casting director. So I would have groups of high school students come into high school, people that were trying out for the humans, come in together and do like a cool like mix and match. Hey, you look neat. You come over here with this one. Let's try this combo, until it felt lively and felt kind of real and fun,
All right, so we have to talk about the entrance of the Cullens, because that is, so I'm interested to establish Anna Kendrick does a great job narrating it, introducing the Cullens walking into the high school. How did that come into play?
Oh my God. Well, so first, as a director, one of your big challenges, okay, find the right location, find a cool location. And we've all been to high schools, cafeterias, not that scenically gorgeous usually, So we looked for one that had some aesthetic value, that had some kind of cool windows, that had like high rafters and beams and stuff like that. And then of course, is it gonna, you shoot it in slow motion, you might speed it up later, but maybe it works in slow motion, So I think the window and everything, it worked. I guess. Did it? Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned high expectations. Well, I got to think the one scene that had the highest expectation was the school scene when Edward meets Bella for the first time. I don't know about you, most of us have not had vampire-human relationships, so I don't know if you do have it. It's such a pivotal scene, and he has the awkward, we all feel awkward when we're crushing on somebody in high school. What was important for you, Robert, and Kristen, to capture in that critical moment of their introduction? Well,
a lot of things. I mean, actually, I think Kristen, Rob felt authentically awkward a lot of the time, So I think they really came from a real place in a way, because there were such high expectations at the book, and also, of course, are we thinking also about the chemistry, biology scene?
Biology.
Yeah, oh my God. Well, they had done that scene in my kitchen, so I'd seen a version of it and I knew that it kind of was working, yeah.
Okay, so we established the key characters, but there's so much to talk about: costumes, sets, and planning out some really complex sequence like bringing vampire baseball to life. Romantic scenes in the trees, the awesome choreographic climatic fight scene, the ballet student. So my question is, can you answer how you pulled this off with a special treat for Comic-Con fans?
Yes, and I have some slides and some stuff. Are we going to do that? Okay.
It's up there.
Hey, I did it. Yay, okay. So that's kind of a fun, like the first time I go and work with an actor on their costumes, I like to be there. So the costume designer is great, Wendy Chuck. But then I like to be there with her. I like to kind of edit out the things that I don't like, things that I do like. And then we had a palette for Bella that was kind of earth tones. You see that little strip of colors at the top? Earth tones, but as she fell in love with Edward, she started switching more into the blues, which were the Cullens colors. And so we would try on all different shirts, outfits, kinds of things. And then when I was there, she looked at my shoes. Those are pictures of my shoes, right? She goes, hey, I like your shoes. I'm like, okay, cool. Because they were worn and kind of funky and weird. So I always say to directors, that's one thing, our filmmakers, your whole life you're out there collecting cool ideas, and everybody here is picking out their awesome clothes and hairstyles, everything that they're wearing. So when you make a movie or tell a story, you put all your own taste, experience, ideas, things that you've learned into the movie. So of course, I guess it makes sense. She liked my shoes. Okay, you can wear my shoes. And one day on the kissing scene, she said, all these t-shirts that they brought me, I'd rather wear your t-shirt. And I'm like, okay. Go to the back room, change into another shirt, give her my shirt, you know. So whatever it takes. So anyway, this is part of the process, trying all the different clothes. Let's dye that shirt a different color until you get something that Kristen feels good about and I feel good and the colors work. So for Rob, you know, we thought that the Cullens would wear, their color palette would be the colors of an Arctic wolf, okay? So they would only be seen in whites, grays, blacks, silvers, and maybe a dark blues. So everything had to fit in that color palette. Now, when you close your eyes and think of Twilight, you see a vision of it because it was a united vision. Like nobody in the movie wore like bright orange or bright yellow or bright red. All those colors were not allowed. They weren't allowed on the props. I mean, none of the bags you get here at Comic-Con would be allowed in the movie. Okay? And that keeps it into like a confined palette that made it feel special, which is kind of what we remember. So anyway, same thing, we were trying to figure out, is it going to be more retro, the baseball look? Is it going to be more like puffy silver coats, you know? So we're trying out all these different things that makes it kind of fun. And then Alice, you know, again, thinking about Alice, you know, when you read about her in the book, you know, you're thinking about that hair and her eyes, and, you know, now we ended up doing a wig for her because, and then we kept cutting it like shorter and shorter until it got that look that you see in the movie. So Rosalie, you know, woo, okay. Of course, the star of 13 and Lords of Dogtown, Nikki Reed, awesome. And so we knew each other since she was 5 years old. I remember she was in Hawaii working in a clothing store. I called her up, Nikki, I got this new project. You know, it's called Twilight. It's based on a book. And I want you to be in it. And she's like, Rosalie, she calls back the next day, Rosalie is supposed to be a blonde, and you know, I don't know about that. I go, well, let's put some sun streaks in your hair, but I think you got the right attitude for it. You mean bitchy? And I'm like, well, kind of, you know. I'm like, Nikki, I know you can pull it off. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun to work with her, and of course the brothers were so fun. And so, you know, of course, Jackson did not get to be Edward, but, you know, he got to be in the movie. And that's because he was so nice and carried my suitcase. Okay. And other good things about him, too. Let's see. And Dr. Cullen and Esme, you know, so it was just fun. Like everybody, that's the creative part of making a movie, trying to get everybody's costumes so they feel good about everything. And, you know, anyway. Oh, the nomads. So one thing was kind of fun, like Cam Gigande, I think he's going to be here tomorrow for another project. Yay. Yep. So he's wearing a jacket, like that was a vintage leather jacket that was mine. I brought it in. It fit him. He looked good in it. I'm like, whoa, okay. And then then the costume designer said, but we need like 7 of them because they have to get ripped up, distressed, and all. So we had to remake the vintage leather jacket and age it and all that stuff. So that was a lot of fun too. And Victoria's t-shirt, you know, Kiss Me, I'm Irish. I bought that on the boardwalk in Venice. Yay, the van crash. So, you know, you see me playing Bella right there. And then you see Rob in a harness. So, you know, everything that looks kind of simple in the movie, you know, it does take a minute to figure it out. You go to the location, somebody drew this, we had a storyboard artist drew the cool storyboard, and then we, you know, I went out there with the stunt guy, he and I, like, would she be like this? And, you know, so that makes it kind of fun as you're figuring everything out. And yeah, these are different details where, you know, I guess I was about, yeah, I was standing in for Bella, oops, you know. So all the different ways that you plan out scenes. And the treetop scene, yay. So there's nothing like this in the book. You guys have, a lot of you guys have read the book. There's no treetop scene in the book. But what's in the book, if you think about how do you translate a book into a film, as a director, we're trying to make it more cinematic and more visual instead of in your head, details, writing in your head. So how did we, why, that's how we kind of came up with the treetop scene. Instead of just thinking, oh, thinking about another time that she thinks how great his cheekbones look, maybe there's too many times like that. So in the book, you know, it works in the book maybe better than in a movie. So it's like, how do we give you the feeling of being madly in love with a supernatural creature? And then what would feel like that, you know, that just makes you, I want to fly through those trees. So this is how we started kind of coming up with this idea and just kind of dreaming about it. And that's a lot of what you have to do as a director. Go to the location, walk around in the trees, in the nature, and just let yourself daydream about certain things and get the feeling or the vibe. And so this was my little crazy sketch where I'm like, you know, what if we start at the house? You know, A on the right-hand side, and then we go to a tree at the real Cullen house and put a little platform there. And then we go out to Cape Horn, which is this beautiful place. I don't know if anybody's been to Cape Horn. Gorgeous on the Columbia River Gorge. I highly advise it. And then we can do another section, a second unit, and then end up on this tree. So I kind of did my meeting like with all the stunt people and all the smart people that know how to do this better than me. And I had this little sketch. What do you guys think? And they're like, hey, okay, we could do better here. Let's build on that. Let's add on that. So again, you know, we had a storyboard artist for some of the days, and you know, some of those key lines, you really shouldn't have said that. It turned out that the house really strangely had a door that opened onto nothing. There was no balcony. I'm like, not safe, but it's perfect for me, you know. Now, I went back there a couple years ago and they had added a balcony. Thank you, okay. And so this was also, okay, the famous line, hold on tight, spider monkey. So that happened, that came up the night before because I started noticing that sometimes it was difficult for Rob and Kristen to just look at each other and look at each other and then look at each other again and look at each other again. I thought, okay, maybe I better give them a little bit more dialogue, you know. And so I wrote like 10 lines, and that was one of them that I came up with. And I handed it to Rob. If you feel like saying any of these things today, instead of just looking and looking, and Rob said, well, I like that one. Hold on. I'm like, yes. So that became one of our beloved lines. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, cool. So, and then we ran out of money. We didn't have a storyboard artist anymore, so I had to draw these. So those are my little drawings. You know, so as a director, you do whatever it takes. And then draw them yourself, whatever. And then sometimes you see I did this drawing of the techno crane on the edge of a cliff, you know, because some people go, I don't know how we're going to shoot that last shot. So, you know, as a director, okay, let's try this. Let's build a platform, edge of a cliff, techno crane. And it sounds kind of dumb, but that's what we did, you know. Okay, so baseball, well, okay. So this was the craziest thing, like how do you figure out how to do vampire baseball? Like what are the things that would make it different and unique? So we had a wonderful stunt coordinator, Andy Chang. We had our wonderful first aid assistant director, Jamie, right back there. Yay, Jamie. Yeah. And we had some people like Cam Gigande and Jackson were very good at baseball. They knew how to play baseball. The rest of us were kind of like, Rob, British, baseball. So we had to go into baseball training camp, like boot camp, which made it really fun because like on Lords of Dogtown, we had skateboard camp, but we couldn't figure out how to have an actual vampire camp because nobody really wanted to, donate the blood. So anyway, this was our sort of like bonding with the baseball camp. And so this was, like trying to figure out how to make it special. First, finding a bitchin' location, which was right across from Multnomah Falls, which is a beautiful waterfall, Columbia River Gorge, so instantly it was absolutely stunning. And then what are like neat things that you could do, like slow motion of the baseball hitting and compression shots, and we're just thinking of anything we could think of to make it fascinating, interesting. Our stunt coordinator, Andy Chang, came up with the magic carpet ride so that the bad vampires could travel faster. So there's a plexiglass thing held down at the bottom that's pulled by these crazy pulleys, and then we put leaves on top so they moved at a faster speed than normal. So we did it sort of all the old school in-camera tricks instead of visual effects, which made it kind of feel real and funky, I think, and then this was just, I thought this was so funny. A typical day, finally you get everybody ready and you think you're about to start shooting and the clock is ticking, it's about to rain, and then Rob goes, hey, I forgot my contacts, And base camp was like 5 minutes away. And then by the time he came back, then Elizabeth Reeser, who plays, Esme, I've got to go pee. I'm like, dude, you've been drinking tea all day. Stop drinking tea, And so every 5 seconds, when you have this many people in a scene, something is conspiring against you to shoot. So anyway, so that was kind of our fun every day. And then it would rain, and then you couldn't shoot. And then the sun would come out, and why couldn't we shoot as the sun came out? Because the vampires have to sparkle, and sparkling costs a lot of money. Because visual effects, CGI, we had a low budget on the first Twilight, so minimal sparkling. So, okay, the ballet studio.
Yeah.
So that was like an early sketch, like, how cool could this look? Now, the ballet studio, you guys know that most of it was not in the book. I mean, really, we kind of heard about it. Kind of off camera. So myself and Jamie and Andy Chang, we had to like imagine and like decide what could we be doing in this ballet studio that two vampires could fight. It would be something special that we hadn't seen before. So we were like fighting in the room, in my office, and floorboards crashing and just trying to think of every cool thing. But the main thing that I really wanted is, as we all watch a lot of action movies, I wanted it not to just be action but emotion too. I wanted you to feel what Bella was feeling and what Edward is feeling for her, and when he sees James, and so I wanted it to be as emotional, tied in with the action, because otherwise half the time I'd kind of snooze off if it's just action, action, action. So that's what we were trying. So we had a storyboard artist. I think they were budgeted for like 2 weeks or something like that. And then I make my little plans, like that's, Bella comes in with the bee, she runs over there, she heads over there. So I make my little shot diagrams of every single scene of how it could be laid out. Even though this seems like a simple scene, but that room is all mirrors, and every single wall and everything is a mirror. So you see yourself, you see the camera in there. And then I make a shot list, very detailed. Like, okay, here's the first part. Bella enters the studio, up to the pepper spray. I need this many shots to tell the story so the audience will get it. I need this many shots, this many shots. So I do like a pretty detailed shot list. And this is only up to this section. James bites Bella and the dive bomb. And then after that, there's another page and another page. And then, these are different, storyboards, action things. How can we make it? Now, this was kind of funny. We wanted the bite, on Edward's neck, or on James' neck. And we made our own thing out of melted cheese in a microwave, or, it was kind of low budget,
Our final surprise for the Comic-Con audience, we're going to hear from a vampire on their perspective of the climactic Twilight's fight sequence in the dance studio.
And you had one of the most pivotal scenes in the movie where you actually, torture Bella and really start the catalyst for her journey. How was doing that fight sequence? How fun was that? And how did you have a lot of expectation weight, because you knew how important that scene was?
I mean, obviously, every scene that we did, we felt like was that important. But we had such wild stunt choreography and trainers where it just, you knew you were in good hands, so you could really kind of take the risks and jump into the deep end of the pool. And she was amazing. I mean, and she was like, I was like, wow, she's like a full-on professional, and you could just kind of stand back in awe, and you just want to, rise to her level. So it was fun. It was a good time.
So that was kind of fun, just showing like how you put the pieces together, and
We have one time for one last question, so I'm going to take moderated privilege and ask a question about my favorite scene, a little subtle scene. Edward and Bella can't have sex, obviously. But Edward playing the piano for Bella really captured the love without having the easy storytelling device of sex. What went into that capturing the romantic scene?
Okay, first, I think you guys might know that Rob is a fantastic pianist. Did you guys know that? And he is a really talented musician. In fact, in that scene, a song that he sings is in the final scene. And that's a beautiful, very soulful song. So he already has those beautiful long vampire fingers. When they play the piano, you're just like, oh my, is this real? So when Carter Burwell, the composer, had written that theme to try to get his girlfriend back. And so he had written it like 10 years before, and he lured her back with the Bella's Lullaby, and that's his wife now, and they've been married for many years. And so that was a real song, really from the heart, about a complicated woman and a complicated relationship. And so one day he told me, I think this song could be right for Bella's, lullaby, and because it's a complicated relationship too. And so we gave the song to Rob. He starts to play it. He plays it like, a master, like the first time. And I'm just like crying, like, oh my God. He's so talented. And I remember we're all just watching him play, and, we didn't really have to do anything because Rob was just so good. It was amazing. He's so beautiful the way he plays and sings, But, yeah.
Sadly, it's all the time we have tonight. I've been invited to meet a House Voltaire member back alley. She said my blood sings, so she wants to give me a present. I'm really excited. I want to thank Comic-Con, and I want to thank all you fans for coming out today. And thank you. And I want to thank Catherine Hardwicke for coming and sharing her insights in the film.
Oh my God.
Oh, sure, yes, sure.
I gotta take a picture of everybody out there. You guys look so good, yeah. I wish I had the soundtrack. I should have recorded the soundtrack. Okay, big smile.